Galaxy 666 by Pel Toro. Session 25.
Welcome back, everyone, to Galaxy 666, your faithful guide, Tug here. What an action-filled session we experienced this week. And as we have come to learn, in Galaxy 666, when there's action to be had, there are tangents to be taken. In this case, our team, having somehow all survived the crash of the Space Greyhound, awakened to find themselves trapped in the wreckage. And that is where we shall begin. It is a proven phenomenon that women who live together will tend to, naturally, unconsciously, align their menstrual cycles, and I can't help but think that something similar is afoot here. All four members having been rendered unconscious by the crash, concussion, head trauma, they all awaken at the same time. After being nearly asphyxiated in space, passing out due to lack of oxygen, they all awaken again at exactly the same time. What is going on? Why do they always seem to recover at exactly the same moment? Do they all share the same biological alarm clock, which happens to include head injury recovery? And we can't without comment move past the crash, which completely destroyed the Space Greyhound but left the entire crew uninjured. If you have had the misfortune of having seen news footage of aircraft accidents, you would recognize that rarely is there much wreckage larger than a bread box. Certainly very unlike J.J. Abrams' first episode of his Lost serial, which featured an aircraft crash where one of the aircraft engines was still functioning. And yet, after their crash, none of the crew have any sort of injury whatsoever. Not a broken bone, not a scratch, not a bruise, not even dirt in the eye. So following the Holmesian idea of whatever answer is left after eliminating all other possible solutions must be the correct answer, Bronit's idea that their predicament was the intent of some godlike actor is about all that makes sense, and of course gives our team an excuse to debate religion, atheism, etc., etc. Exploring Bronit's idea further, some greater being, having first thrown their ship back and forth in space, and let us not forget it also previously destroyed Bion's ship, causes the Space Greyhound to crash, safely, but in a way that all the crew are unharmed yet imprisoned so that they will starve to death. Admittedly, there is merit in thinking that a godlike being had a hand in this, but discerning its intent seems rather more difficult. So at this point, suffice it to say, there is no apparent reason for anything that has happened to this group so far. The majority of this chapter focuses on the hidden relationship between Ishklaw and Korzak, which includes some sort of superhuman power that must be kept hidden from everyone else. This superpower somehow allows for the bending of strong spacecraft metals, and it is so critical that the nature of this ability not be revealed, Bronit and Oski are required to make a pinky swear promise not to reveal anything of it that they might learn, and then must distract themselves with the mental game of chess. Remember, these are the same people who had a special computer for playing tic-tac-toe. Not to give away too much of the future plot line, but with this event, we have learned about all there is to know about Ishklaw and Korzak's supernatural bond. I think we would not be far wrong to guess that this bond is really, more or less, a simple tool for extracting our heroes from an otherwise impossible situation, without our beloved author having to go back and rewrite what he had written just a couple paragraphs before. And it is more or less supremely unsatisfying. As a counterpoint, recall Superman's rescue of Lois Lane from death. He finds her body crushed and the life gone from her. What would be our response if he simply held her, gently said, "Don't look, Lois," and poof, she was alive again? "What happened?" she would ask, and Superman would respond, "I can't tell you." Again, massively disappointing. However, what Superman does instead is begins to fly around the Earth, which is of course impossible, so that the Earth begins to spin backwards. Impossible. Which results in time reversing. Impossible. Which then allows Superman to save Lois Lane before she is crushed to death. This excuse is no less ridiculous or implausible than Superman simply wishing Lois Lane back to life. But as a reader, it works, and we are happy to accept it and find it satisfying. The audience simply needs to have a reason to believe. Take as another example the research study conducted in 1978 by Langer, Blank, and Chanovich, in which they tested how likely someone was to allow a stranger to come up and use a Xerox before them. People were much more likely to let the stranger intrude if the stranger used the word because, even if no reason was supplied after it. How is it that in Star Trek people can beam from one location to another in violation of the laws of physics? Because of the Heisenberg compensator. The most important word of that last sentence being because. There is a hard, definite, though completely nonsensical reason. And that is what is missing in Pell's work. The audience has nothing to grab onto. How do Ishklaw and Korzak get themselves free? Shh. No questions, please. Because I do so enjoy my time with you, let us find out what next awaits us in
Galaxy 666.
Here ends Session 25.